Flyers won on Craig Billington, number 11 for Gartner, making it 1-0 Toronto. Ty Domi has just scored his second of the season to make it 2-0 for the Leafs. And the Vancouver Canucks will be in action a bit later on this evening, but they will be playing without Pavel Bure. He is gone for the season with a knee injury. We'll have the full report for you coming up on our next edition of Sports Desk at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Right now, let's go to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We've got University of Victoria playing UBC for 5th and 6th in this tournament. A great rivalry. You know about it because you played in it. Talk about this rivalry tonight.
Yeah, it's pretty special whenever you get a chance to play each other because having played for Uvic, having coached UBC, you get a real feeling because you played against each other in high school, maybe with each other in high school, with each other on provincial teams, so you never want to let down against your rival.
And we're playing off for 5th and 6th, and some people might say, well, gee whiz, University of Victoria and UBC, are they that great? But this has been one incredible tournament.
Yeah, it's been a very tough tournament. You have traditional North American powerhouses in Manitoba and UCLA, and you also have a pro team from Russia, one of the top European teams. When you throw that in the mix, it makes for a very tough tournament.
And when we talk about the teams, we think about UBC and we think about UVic. You being a setter, you can really pick out the players to watch. So tell me UBC and then just go right into UVic.
Sure. Graham Middlecamp from UBC, he's an experienced player and he's changed positions. So now he's going to be passing and hitting out of power, not just playing right side. So we'll see how he makes that transition. For Victoria, Michael Zach, he's in his 2nd year, Canada West Player of the Year last year as a rookie, and played on the provincial team this summer, and he's made great strides, so we'll see how he does attacking today.
And we're at the University of British Columbia for the Rukenor Thunderball 10, one of the top international volleyball tournaments in North America. We're going to join the action right after this. Local broadcast and sponsorship of the Thunderball 10 Intercollegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament is made possible through funding provided by Rukenor Canada Limited, where sport is an art. We have both teams lined up on the end line. What we've got here today is we've got the light blue will be UBC. So you see UBC lined up on this end, and on the far end in the dark blue will be University of Victoria. Start going over the lineup, Doug.
We've got, we just saw a good shot of Graham Middlecamp. Now we're panning across the UVic lineup. Number 5, Mike Zach, player we talked about earlier. Scott Liebauer, he's setter. He's from Red Deer College, played in their national championship team last year.
Number 6, Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong, experienced player in his 4th year and definitely someone that UVic will be looking to. Chris McIver, probably the player that will get the most sets for the University of Victoria.
It should be pretty easy to tell which two guys are middle blockers on that team. Both belong here.
Yeah, that narrows it up in a hurry. So if you're any doubt in terms of positions, you can check out the guy with the long lock and blonde. Sean Nevitt, interesting story. He's from Red Deer as well, so he's playing against his former setter last year. Speaking of setters, there's Jamie McKay, great athlete for UBC. Dale Ambrose, middle blocker for Victoria, starter returning from last year. Mike DL from Courtney, BC, and player from the Western Canada Games team stepping into the starting lineup. Actually, Mike DL will probably play in position other than that side. Now I see Jerry Restering on the court.
Well, Ambrose and Mike DL are both from the same community, are they? They both from the Courtney area?
That's right. Actually been a hotbed of volleyball in this province.
So there's our officials for tonight. On the right, it will be Greg Rowe, and on the left, it will be Mark Lindahl. So the two captains are signaled to come forward first in international volleyball. We always start by allowing the captains to come forward and then very politely shake hands. What do people say out there, Doug?
Well, I think it's a little perfunctory. I mean, they're thinking a lot more about the match than they are about shaking hands at this point. So
I used to say to my players, it's okay to wish the other people good luck, but it might be more important to. And we've got Dale Ullman. Dale Ullman used to play himself at the University of British Columbia.
He's been here for, actually he's the most experienced coach at UBC now. And so he's seen a few of these UVic, UBC battles in his lifetime. Looks like Paul Smith assembled a strong string of assistant coaches. And
yeah, that was a shot by Brian McCaskill. And very often what you got is you've got coaches signaling from the bench to say where the ball is to be served. I was watching Skates yesterday from UCLA, and he was making absolutely sure that his servers knew where he wanted the ball to go. Right now on the line, Neil Armstrong getting ready to serve. UBC lined up in a three-man service reception, so they must be expecting Armstrong to use that spike serve.
So I think one of the keys for UBC is going to be the ability to handle spin serving. They had some trouble against Saskatchewan in that department.
Neil Armstrong, here he comes with that spike serve. The ball is passed. You're right, they're having trouble. And that's going to be Mike Dial, dug up in the back row by Lee. Set to the outside. McIver puts the ball down.
Boy, great swing from McIver. Sharp cross court, and that'll give UBC's defense a lot of trouble. He's able to hit that angle consistently.
1-0. So that ball is blocked. It was McIver and Zach up on that ball. And
good strong block there, Vic. And helped in part by the fact that the pass was off the net a fair bit. They allowed the blockers to cheat outside.
Jamie Mackay out to the outside, and it's hit cross court. Beautiful spike cross court by number 1, Sean Nevitt.
Sean Nevitt, that's one of the top players in college ranks last year from the national championship team from Red Deer.
And ball is just dropping in. Mackay up into the middle, and Ambrose almost gets it down. Half-speed ball. Okay, now out to the outside. Middle camp puts it deep and out of bounds. One of the players out there for University of Victoria, I didn't see him play earlier in the tournament, but Jesse Vey playing right side opposite the center.
Coach Paul Smith is looking for him to really develop into a strong player. Still a little rough, still a little raw.
Okay, Mackay, middle camp, out and recovering. And,
well, it looks a little rough and a little bit raw in that play, didn't he? But I think he's somebody, sometimes in terms of skill level, there's coming a little shy. Graham Middlecamp here, he's one of the top players, and that's going to be important for UBC that they get some offense out of him.
Quick ball into the middle, and Chris McIver putting it down. Talk about that play.
Boy, Chris McIver, one of the nice things about that play is they ran a little bit different tempo. They ran a little quicker and more inside. Not sure if they're trying to make Mike DL move a little bit when he's blocking on the outside, but that's something we can watch for.
Scott Liebauer, back to server. Jamie Mackay getting ready to set. Liebauer puts it deep.
Boy, interesting serve. You know, usually when you see someone to go up to jump serve that has a lot of spin in the ball, that had no spin at all, more of a float, which I think he did on purpose, but he'll have to be able to control that a little better.
Well, talking about a spin server, we've got Mike DL was back there. Jamie Mackay, he's up and he faked the set, and he pulled it off.
Boy, great set there. That just shows his natural ability as an athlete. He made it look like he was going to attack to draw the blockers up and then set the quick play.
Westering was the man that put that down, and Mike DL up there with that great spike serve, and that ball is through. So Chris McIver, one of the people you'd indicated earlier, is doing fine. One of the new rules, we can serve anywhere along the end line. Take a look at that one more time.
Chris McIver, even on slow motion, that ball coming pretty quickly.
And Chris McIver's back with that spike serve, passed very, very well, and middle camp coming into the middle, and we had again a change of tempo, combination play.
Definitely important for UBC. Pass the ball well enough to run their middle attack, which they did well there, and hit nice deep ball. You can't defend that.
Middle camp with a great serve and a great pass, and Armstrong coming around to the outside, a little step around, and Mike DL. Mike has been playing better and better. I mean, I've watched him from high school through the junior, and this guy just keeps improving.
Boy, he's come a long way. You know, for someone who see Mike Zach, another first-year player. Mike Zach got a lot of playing time last year. Mike DL did not.
Out to the outside, and Jesse Vey. Jesse may have let up a little bit. I mean, you know, he's a little inexperienced.
A little experienced. He was trapped a little bit in the sense that that set fell a little bit inside more than he thought. So he only really had one shot. Maybe as he gets more experience, he'll learn to lay up a little bit.
So Kevin Lee puts that ball down, and right now we have the score 3-3 as Kevin Lee goes back to the end line. And boy, is he ever going back a long ways.
It's one of the things to make the serving tough. A lot of times on float serves, players will stand way back.
That ball's going to be a free ball over. Mike Dale getting a little bit confused. And that ball is not over, so Ambrose not putting it over right now. The University of Victoria leading UBC 4-0 in this Rukenor Thunderball 10 from the University of British Columbia International Volleyball. This is 4 positions, 5th and 6th. Nevid goes with a half speed. That half speed is just out of bounds. Right now, 5-3. UBC falling behind.
I don't think Coach Dale Oman would really like how they've started here in terms of their ability to pass the ball right to the setter and their ability to get kills from power.
That's a good example about how far back he is in that inland.
And one of the things, you get a lot of movement on the ball. Of course, you're taking a little bit higher risk if you're trying to serve the ball tough, but there's really a trade-off. You're going to make some serves if you serve tough, but if you can serve the ball like you did on the first one and put them off balance, that trade-off could be worth points.
Westering, he had a good float serve. Middlecamp takes it, it's going up, and Jamie Mackay decides to hit it first time.
Yeah, I mean, he hit that ball out of bounds, but I like the way he went after that because he changed what he did from the previous play when he faked the hit. So next time, will Victoria go up with him, or will they wait for him to set?
Jesse Bay just touching the top of the net. So right now, we're exchanging services. Jamie Mackay with UBC 3, University of Victoria 5, Rukenor Thunderball 10. Deep. Kyver goes up. Scott Liebauer goes over and puts it down first time.
It also looks like he's a fairly good athlete. He got up there pretty well. Back in my day, setters always didn't have to jump that well, but you see the play here developing. Real good play. You see the problems that causes for the blockers because they've got to be able to adapt to that front row setter who can also attack.
Well, right away, we just got an out of rotation. Take a look. The players were giving the signals there. And Neil Armstrong with University of Victoria leading 6. So there was an out of rotation called by the umpire. And you talk about a good athlete getting up in the air.
It was way up in the air over the net that time and put it straight down.
You can see why he might have led his Red Deer team to the national championship last year.
Yeah, looks like he's got a good ability to run the show.
Neil Armstrong plays pretty good beach volleyball. And Jamie Mackay is up, and he puts it into Ambrose, and Ambrose puts it into the net. And right about now, Dale Oman's calling a timeout, and I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's time to try and get a little bit of rhythm in their offense. Again, a lot of that's keyed off of their first contact and serve receipt. You've got to maintain some composure here. You know, it's 8-3, and a lot of them have been caused by some of their own unforced errors.
So Paul Smith, and one of the things that Paul has a luxury of, certainly this year, is 2 setters. He's got Brian Stevens, who's from Courtenay. Mike Dale's from Courtenay. Brian Stevens went last year to Camosun College to play a year of junior college. Notice that Scott Liebauer went to Red Deer College. Talk about the idea that a lot of people are now taking maybe a couple of years at a junior college and then going to university.
And there's some strong college programs, you know, both Alberta and BC. And, you know, for some players, it's a transition. Some of them, you know, in terms of academic, their priorities may change a little bit before they come. And, again, it's just another way for them to get some seasoning. But it's interesting to see some of the top players, like they're coming in and starting at this level. And, you know, for some of them, I'm sure it's still a bit of an adjustment from college to the university level and the speed of play, especially when you look at some of the teams we have in this tournament. I'm sure they didn't see a lot of teams like UCLA and Russia. And
well, UCLA, Russia, and I saw the University of Manitoba play that Russian pro team early in the tournament, and it went 5. We had a net violation, so that timeout worked effectively for Dale.
A lot of missed serves, but a lot of them are not missing by very much. And then as a coach, you do want your athletes trying to serve tough.
Good pass, and Mike Zach is in there. He hit that ball. It's out of bounds. Right now, the University of British Columbia coming back 4-8. Nevid, Sean Nevid. He's also from Red Deer, Alberta. He's back. Good float serve. That ball passed straight over. And there's one of those new beach dig recoveries. We'll talk about that in a minute. Jamie McKay in there, and Middlecamp right off the block.
one of the great things about that play, Middlecamp got the kill, but with the free ball, they were able to run a lot of motion in their offense. There you see setter from Victoria trying to get his troops ready. If you notice, he's making funny hand signals. Those are the plays they're going to be running on this play.
Well, let's get another shot of him because he was giving little hook signals.
Each of those signals, Vic, will determine what each hitter is going to run. So they're going to try and change things up a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things when I was talking to Brian Stevens at the beginning, he'd indicated when he touches his shoulder, his body on either side, it indicates which player he wants to set in the back row. So everybody has their own little set of signals.
That's one of the things all the players have to be aware to hit now. You see most of these players also hitting out of the back row.
What happened there?
Well,
looks like good recovery.
Looks like UBC has found a little bit of a weakness deep in Victoria's defense. They're running quick attack and hitting it deep to the corners.
Dale Ambrose, Courtney, British Columbia, 6'5", is on the line. Ball recovered by the center, Jamie McKay. Up there, and the ball is through.
Real good transition and attack back for UBC, and that helped hold the middle blocker. And the majority of their kids are coming out of the middle right now.
West Ring up and putting it down. Passes up. That ball is recovered. Going to the outside. Mike Dial playing on the right side, and he puts it down.
Mike Dial way up over that one, and he smacked that ball down the line. Great kill, forcing Uvic to get a timeout.
Well, the timeout for UBC has turned them around as we brought this game back. This is game number 1, 3 out of 5. It's 8-8. It's Rukenor Thunderball 10. 10 years this tournament's been around.
I was just looking through some of the tournament records and the teams that have been here, and it's been an impressive lineup. You know, I think hats off to Rukenor for their support of this kind of tournament. They've been a solid supporter of lead volleyball and other sports in this province.
Well, and you look, one year, you know, Dale has a team in from China. A couple of years he has his connections for Korea. And now it looks like Dale's set up the connections with Russia.
Yeah, I mean, the international flavor to the tournament, I think, adds a lot from all perspectives, as a spectator, as a player, as a coach. You know, as a coach, you get a chance to see some things that are run in a little different way, in different styles. And too often, you know, we tend to, in our own leagues, maybe just copy each other, and now we get a chance to maybe think about things a little bit differently.
Well, I remember Val Keller said, you know, a photocopy is never as good as the original. So kind of look at other people and take a look at it and create your own style.
That's true, but a lot of times you are going to borrow and change and adapt a little bit.
There it is, and ooh, Chris McIver put that one down the line.
Responded to Mike Dial's attack from that previous time and put it right back down at him. Again, not to dwell on the setter's role, but the jump set there really held both blockers and gave him the opportunity.
Scott Lieber, you're right. I think he does go for a float jump. And there it is, Middlecamp coming in, and there's a pancake, almost a pancake recovery. Maybe you can talk about a pancake recovery.
Well, the terminology, the lingo there would be, if you don't think you're going to be able to get both hands on the ball and just before it hits the floor, you try and time your hand to hit in the exact spot where the ball's going to be.
And we have the umpire calling an out-of-rotation call. I know that particular umpire got in a little trouble with UCLA because they didn't agree with him. It turned out he was right. But talk about out of rotation.
For people watching, you have to be lined up. If you're in the front row, ahead of your back row person, and on the right side. So in other words, you have to start in the right position. From there, you can move around the court.
Chris McIver getting real trouble there, but recovered, and that ball was, well, it didn't go over, but the referee called it for a throw anyway.
So in that situation here, we see just a short tip shot trying to score along the net, take advantage of the defense. Jamie Mackay steps in to dump the ball, what we call setter dumping the ball over the net and into the net.
And there's one to the outside, Middlecamp. He's the man you were talking about. Liebauer in Armstrong, hitting it hard. Ambrose. Now Mackay goes this time, and this time he gets it in.
You know, you got to like that away from the setter. He wasn't happy with his previous effect, came right back to it, and that's a nice play because the defense, I think the last thing they thought was that he was going to dump again. So you can see none of the blockers really up with him.
What would you say about a setter that is, you know, kind of, you know, showing you, hey, listen, okay, so I missed that one.
Well, if you made that mistake again, then you get mad at him. But when he makes nice plays and scores, then you're going, great play, great choice.
Yeah. So Middlecamp is up, and right now the home team is leading 10-8.
Great run here for UBC. If you think of that timeout that UBC had, it was 8-3, and they've come back to lead 10-8.
Kevin Lee, deep float serve. Last time he was up, he served float out of bounds. He's in there recovering, and Neil Armstrong having an opportunity to do one of his beach recoveries.
Yeah, that was a great dig.
Beach digs now that we're seeing in the game.
Well, there's been several rule changes. Probably the most major has been opening up the first contact. So, in other words, there's going to be almost no carried balls or double hits called on the first contact. And as you can see, the speed these guys are hitting the ball is going to help extend the rallies and probably make some changes in defensive technique.
Well, we've got some changes. Chris Campbell is going to be in. He's doing the serving, and James Uvic is in for Uvic. And there's a 31 hit by Mike Zach. And I always, call them 31s, but you can explain to our audience.
Well, the court is measured off. It's 9 meters wide. So if you think of the court in 1 meter areas, one of the ways we diagram or plays is to have it in each 1 meter.
So there he was, away from the center, but now UBC coming back. Mackay, oh, and a little stutter step there by Ambrose. James Huby, and the ball was touched by the block. And it's a tip out of the back row. Mike Zach just gets the ball down. But we had Ambrose come in with a little stutter step there.
Yeah, call it a double pump. And so actually we're here and seeing the tail end of the play here. Good block coverage from Victoria. This was just a great rally here. And it finished off with a little off-speed shot there, and then the over-bump kill from Zach.
Of course, the off-speed shot, White Finner, another off-speed shot. There's a corner to the outside, and we got a net violation. We got Jamie Mackay called on the net violation. Armstrong. This is the fastest I've seen you run their offense. Those balls are pretty fast on the outside.
One of the keys is exactly that. You want to hit against one blocker if you can, and that speed of set will help you do that.
So that ball is blocked. UBC back, Middlecamp getting it blocked again. Middlecamp going to take the set outside to Nevitt, and the ball is through. Nevitt gets it through. 10-10. This is game number 1. University of British Columbia in that light blue.
I think for Nevitt that's an important swing because he'd had trouble getting kills. He hadn't had a lot of great sets, so that was a chance for him to get a kill.
And we saw the center giving the signals, and we have Lawrence Chikula in for Jesse Vey. There's a half-speed serve. The ball is set, and he's given it to McIver. And Chris Campbell, who is from Fredericton, New Brunswick. He's come a long ways to go to university.
Yeah, you see more and more players sort of coming to different areas.
Neil Armstrong.
Back in the line with a spin serve.
He hits it, maybe not as hard as he might like to, but it is down. Ambrose having not a bad game, but that ball looked like it wasn't quite hit crisply.
Right. The timing between the two hitters is important. One of the things I think he was trying to do is just cut that ball by the block, which he did. So I think they've done a good job from the UBC perspective, finding some holes in the Uvic defense out of their middle attack.
Christopher Torres in now from London, Ontario. He's coming in to serve and replay the back row. He gets a good spike serving. See why he's in there. Mike Zach comes in and takes about a 41.
Mike Zach with another kill. He's racking him up here. As you can see, being replaced right away by Nevitt. But as a substitute, he did his job there. He came in off the bench cold and served the ball very tough.
In fact, right now, it looked like he was one of the toughest servers to go in, wouldn't you say?
I would say, and that's probably why he went in.
Mike Zach, high toss, good arm action.
Boy.
And the ball just in.
I'm sure Paul Smith is shaking his head a little bit with the number of balls they've served that have just touched the top of the net. That's at least 4.
Back on the inline. Ambrose.
Got Coach Dale Oman here. I'm not sure exactly what he's diagramming. It could be something to do with their offense.
And Mike Zach out of the back row. Well, Mike Zach might have missed on his serve, but he did that back row on the right
Funny
side.
thing there, it still hit the very top of the net, but that's allowed when you're attacking the ball. A little different than serving, and there it helped him because it just threw the blockers timing off just enough to get him another kill.
Well, Dale's using lots of substitutions. Is this a little dangerous at this stage in the game?
Well,
Mike Johnson
I think he's probably saving this point just to give himself a little bit of stability, and the key skill is serve receive here, and they're a little worried about the spike serve.
Well, it's a spike float serve, and McIver is up, and he just pushes it to the floor. Chris McIver.
One of the things that I think both teams have a little bit is some variation in their servers. They don't all spike serve, and even some of the spike serves don't have spin. an interesting play, Vic. Uvic team, they stopped. They thought the ball was down and on the floor, and it was covered by UBC. We'll get a good look at it here. Ball came down. Oh, it was close. The referee was completely blocked on that play.
And the umpire was watching the net.
That's right.
So you
One of the first things you learn in junior high volleyball is don't stop till the whistle goes, and they stopped.
Middlecamp was up, puts it right down. Right now we have 11-11. Mike Dial, he played on the Victoria team when you won the Canadian Juvenile Championship. He played on the BC team when they won the Australian Canadian Championship. 6'7".
I think that's his boy, and he's only in the second year, and I think as he gets stronger, he's going to be a real strong player for UBC.
And Chris McIver, he's deep, hard. They're lined up there. Mike Zach gets a one-hander on it, and Scott Liebauer puts it over there, and that ball is down.
Graham Middlecamp, you see him getting off the floor. Tough transition. He's got to move a long way to cover that tip. So you see the set go outside after the dig by Zach. Well disguised, just popped over the block, and it doesn't look that good, but when you can mix up strong attack and tipping.
Chris McIver, good one. And that ball is almost through. Going to go to McIver in the back row. McIver hitting it hard. And that was a great recovery by Mike Dial. Middlecamp just getting a little choke there, maybe, and giving a half speed. Jesse Bay's back into the game. And for a young fellow that's new into this, he's going to like that one.
Yeah, definitely. I think for a younger player, you know, if you can get swing and get a kill, it'll just help your confidence so much. We saw almost an identical replay a little earlier when they had two blockers on him, and he wasn't able to get the kill, so it's sure he's breathing a little easier after getting that kill.
Well, Dale Oman is calling the timeout. His team trailing 11-13. I remember when Dale played for the University of British Columbia.
Well, I'm happy to say, I don't remember that.
Actually, I believe it or not, I recruited him. He was standing up in the stands, and he's
you were the one.
Yeah, a little skinny 18-year-old. And in those days, at the University of British Columbia, you had to take physical education as a compulsory, no matter what subject you take. Or if you played on varsity sport. I saw this big guy, 6'6", beside me, and I said, "Have you got your PE credits?" He said, "No, what's that?" I explained it to him and said he'd come out and play volleyball. He said he'd actually played before. It turned out when he got out there, that was a lie.
Actually, I've heard the story that out of the first 10 balls that you tossed for him to hit, I don't think he even touched more than one of them.
No, and it was a little coordination problem. But I mean, he went from there on to finally making the UBC varsity team. They were the first team, by the way, to play in the World University Games for Canada.
Yeah.
Dale and these guys all played in it. And, you know, he coached the Richmond team. They went on to the BC Championship, and he's done really well here. Chris McIver up, and they're leading 13. And he makes a great recovery, and right up there for putting it down right away, 14-11, Kevin Lee. Take a look at this one.
Just over the net, just couldn't handle the speed of the spike serve. You saw Jamie McKay getting a little upset there. He needs passes to run the offense.
And there it is. That ball it's being recovered. Jimmy Kay, he's going to do it himself, but the ball is out of bounds. Game number 1 goes to the University of Victoria, 15-11. This is a 3 out of 5, so we're quite a ways away yet. This is Vic Lindell. I'm with Doug Reimer. Quick comment on that first game.
Boy, you saw almost 3 games in 1 there. Victoria off to a great start. UBC came back. It looked like they were rolling. They'd gotten ahead 10-11 to 8, and they just left Victoria at 8, and all of a sudden, several quick plays by Victoria. And, you know, really, Vic, it wasn't that complicated a story. A lot of it revolved around the inability of UBC to handle some of the spike serving from...
We're at the Rukenor Thunderball 10, and we're going to be right back with game number 2. Local broadcast and sponsorship of the Thunderball 10 Intercollegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament is made possible through funding provided by Rukenor Canada Limited, where sport is an art. Well, the University of Victoria winning that first game. It's 3 out of 5. We're at UBC War Memorial Gymnasium, Rukenor Thunderball 10. Right now, both teams are having their lineups checked.
So we see just lining up in rotation. As we mentioned in the first game, with those out of rotation calls, you have to start in the right positions. You're in all sorts of different formations on the court, but the most important thing is that you're lined up in the right order, and that's what the umpire, Mark Lindell, was just checking.
Mark is working on getting his national rating. There's a quick one in the middle. What happened there?
Boy, just missed timing. I think the set was pushed too far. So some of that can be still, even though it looked like it was the setter's error, some of the times it's the timing from the middle attacker.
So we had a toss, and he let the ball drop.
Yeah, and you're allowed a second chance at it. Normally you're allowed 5 seconds to put the ball into play, but on the second whistle you only have 3 seconds.
Neil Ambrose, the ball's passed up by Armstrong, and that ball is through. Mike Zach, he's away from his setter, and he seemed to be like almost even fading away.
Yeah, I think that they're setting this to a position, so even though that pass was back a little bit, he actually went to the same spot as on the previous play when they didn't get the kill.
Neil Armstrong, he used that same serve when he was playing beach. Mike DL. Mike finds his way through. Now, Mike has been playing middle. I know he played middle when he played for our juvenile team, and he played middle on the Western Canada Games, but now he's playing right side.
Right, and I think they're looking for the best spot for him to play because they want him on the court. Here's the kill, off the hands, so that was a good kill for Mike DL.
So, and while we were watching the replay, we got both side out, so no problem. And Mike Zach's taking a look to see where he's going to put it. High toss, deep. Now you get a chance to watch the formation as Middlecamp lines up, and Scott Leibauer out there all by his lonesome.
Great one-on-one block. You know, I think Graham Middlecamp's probably getting a little bit frustrated here. They're serving to him a lot, so they're serving the spike serve here across court to Graham Middlecamp, and that took him out of the play. Here he goes again.
What I actually liked was how he was using his opposite hand on that. McIver's going with the tip, but that is recovered very well. Westering. Middlecamp with a half-speed ball. It's out of bounds. Lines people have to be on the ball, don't they?
They certainly do, especially they've got to be watching both lines. They've got to be watching for touches off the block. I think one key here, Vic, is can Graham Middlecamp start to handle some of the spin serving? He's not used to passing, and he's now into this passing rotation.
Now, we saw Mike Zach get 2 pretty good serves in, then he missed the serve. What's the ratio between, say, aces and errors?
Well, you know, one of the more basic ways to look at it as a coach is you're looking to see, can you just get a positive ratio? Meaning, can you have more aces than errors at the end of the match?
More aces than errors.
More
That's
aces.
what you're after.
That's what I'm after.
Do you have a number?
In terms of total number, I mean, a lot of that is going to depend on how long that match lasts. And let's say if you don't make a lot of errors, maybe you're not going to get quite as many aces.
There's a quick one. The ball's dug up by Mike Zach. Out to the outside. Leibauer and Chris McIver. He's not afraid to hit that ball. And he goes up and does a fist shot. We're seeing a few more of these people doing these kind of fist hits.
Yeah, as a quick way to control the ball, just pop it back over. Here we see the set going outside. Back to the action.
And McIver goes up, and that ball is hit deep and bounces off Ambrose in the back row. Right now, the University of Victoria taking a quick lead. Now leading 4-1. Scott Leibauer taking a look over at the bench, so he must be getting a signal. And then the ball is up. There it is. Middlecamp does it. Great recovery in the back row by Armstrong. Mike Zach half speeds it. One-hand play by Ambrose out to the outside by Nevitt. There it is. Quick Jesse Vay. Recovered. Incredible recovery by the setter. And Armstrong, let's see who's going to win this rally. It's the University of Victoria.
Great rally, lots of action, bodies flying all over the court. I think Sean Nevitt, he just misjudged this ball a little bit. Great recovery in the back row. Neil Armstrong, still good approach, hit it hard off the blocker's hands, and that's what caused the mistiming.
So, Scott Leibauer hitting his, it does appear that he's trying to hit a jump float serve.
So, you know, and some of the problem for UBC is just judging very quickly, is that ball in or out?
Westering, and Leibauer takes it. Jesse Vay, you can see why they've indicated Jesse Vay's got a good future.
Yeah, Coach Smith, he mentioned him earlier, you know, he had I think he has real high hopes for him, and when those kind of attacking, you can see why he wants him on the court.
Chris McIver maybe didn't take enough time to think about what he was doing.
Yeah, you know, that's a common mistake, you know, the whistle goes and sort of not give him a chance to focus.
And James Kai not taking very long either. And it's funny, because neither one of them did. They didn't, I was looking at a game plan of Ben Wood, the setter at what you can see here. It didn't take very long. consider it Simon Fraser, and what she had in her little pre-game plan is take the full 5 seconds. Do you ever ask your players to take the full 5 or 4?
You know, often, especially after, I mean, I think one of the problems here, to shift it a little bit, it gets tougher as somebody misses just ahead of you. You know, you've got that image still planted in your brain, so you better be able to get a positive one going.
Jessie Vay may have needed this game and those kinds of hits to say, okay, I can play at this level.
You know, and one of the things that's probably helping a little bit, if you see Mike Zach's in the front row as well, and the blockers are keying on him, which is opening up some things for Jessie Vay.
Well, there's a man that puts the ball down anytime he's set. Mike DL, 6'7", finds an opening every time.
And if you look, we've got the right side attackers on both teams having a lot of success.
Here's a quick back set to the right side again, as you just gave us a little preview of what's going to happen on the right side. Kevin Lee's going to go with a half speed, may have wanted to hit that harder. And Middlecamp goes with half speed. Half speeds might kill, but they're not going to kill here. But that ball is blocked. Westering.
Actually, Westering, he led UBC in the first game with 3 kills. There he had response and helps with a stuff block. Great shot at it. All 4 arms pressing over the court. Not a lot of court to hit at.
Well, and again, you indicated all 4 arms pressing over the court. I realize that most people who are volleyball people will know this, but there are some rules about blocking over the net for people that are maybe new to the game.
Right. You can't attack with your hands as a blocker on the other side until 3rd contact is made. So as soon as it's spiked, then you're looking to see, you know, in terms, coaches' terms, you try to take away as much court as possible, reduce the angles that they can hit at, make it tougher for them to hit a small area of the court.
Now, again, I know you are young, so you more than likely never played when we weren't allowed to reach over the net to block.
I'm happy to say I don't remember that.
There's another one off Jessie Vay. Just said about, yes. So, you know, a good number of years ago, you had to stay entirely on your own side. Well, what a revolution in the game when you're allowed to reach over and block.
Yeah, if you look at the number of rule changes here, you used to be able to block serves. I did play when that occurred. And a lot of these players out here, they don't remember that at all. So that changed things a fair bit too.
The game of volleyball making changes. This is 1995. This is the 100th anniversary of volleyball. Great recovery by Ambrose. That ball's going to be a free ball back. Jessie Vay just lets it go. And that right now is 6-5.
See Dale Ambrose there on the overpass. He got a great touch off of this dig.
Middlecamp takes it. And not many balls are going to be bouncing off the ceiling here, but that's credit to Middlecamp for hitting it so hard.
Yeah, sometimes I think people don't quite recognize the power that they're hitting at. There you see Graham going up, hitting the ball really hard cross court.
Scott Liebauer puts it in. Mike Zach takes it off the block. Talk about rule changes. So the rule changes on the first contact now. You're allowed to double hit. What about serving anywhere on the end line?
Well, I think I like this rule because it just gives you a little more chance to go to some different angles, you know, opens things up a little bit and puts some pressure on the serve receivers.
Well, Middlecamp, and Middlecamp's going to get another shot at it. Middlecamp goes hard, but it is blocked in your face. Well, not quite in his face, but
close enough. The ball came down in a hurry. I think if we see here, this ball is going to be blocked and back at Graham Middlecamp before he even landed on the floor, which means it came back fast and he jumps pretty high.
Mike Zach deep, and Jamie Mackay is up there. One of the things that I remember I think it was Val Keller said, he said, the block is connected to the serve.
And probably what he's meaning here, like off of the pass, see a great block there. Both blockers did their job. They went up. One went up in the front row setter, the other one back row attack.
Out to the outside, and all of a sudden that Mike DL is coming. And where in the heck is Mike DL? Mike DL, he went all the way around and hit on the left front. They had to try and find some place that they could get this side out.
Yeah. So if you notice, like, in terms of the rotational thing there, even though we had to start on the far side, they want him hitting out of that far area.
The ball is out of bounds, so they went after Jessie Vay.
Be a good pattern. I think probably Graham Middlecamp here, probably a little bit frustrated because he's having some trouble passing the ball. Let's see how he does here and see if Victoria goes after him.
Good volleyball out of Kelowna. Graham Middlecamp from Kelowna. You know a little bit about the good volleyball in Kelowna yourself.
So, yeah, they've, the island as a hotbed, certainly for both men and women. Kelowna's been an area too.
Oh, a lot of people wouldn't know, though, Doug, that you are from Kelowna, and that's where you started your volleyball.
Yeah.
Right now, it is 10-5, and Uvic just bouncing ahead, and this is part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, again, it not that complicated. Started with just a very average pass first. Jamie Mackay to get up and try and save the ball that's going over the net. You know, there has been so many balls that have been passed over the net. See Paul Smith here, he's talking with his setter, and then probably, you know, he's still a young setter, and they're probably still working on developing their offense. Still early in the season here, so they've got to make some adjustments. Just guessing from the hand signals, looks like they're maybe talking about some kind of crossing patterns or some movement here. Obviously, the setter, you know, on the court is really the coach on the court, because they're calling the plays, they're running the offense. You know, you don't always get a chance to call the play in from the bench, and you don't really want to call the plays in from the bench. Dale Oman, on the other hand, I think he's also talking to his setter, but, you know, to be fair to the UBC offense, they need to be passing the ball more consistently. And some of this, I have to give credit to Victoria's serve. They had an ace serve that went what we call a postage stamp right into the corner, you know, and it's tough to defend an entire court area, especially if you've only got two people passing.
So that was a postage stamp, and then that last one was overpassed. And
Right.
very frustrating being a setter, you know.
Yeah.
Say, please get the ball up to me.
And it's one of the things, that's why you want to keep serving tough, to try and serve hard enough to take the team out of their rhythm.
Well, Dale Oman's timeout took Scott Liebauer out of the rhythm, so Scott Liebauer now he's giving his signals.
Yeah.
He's looking his players over. He's letting them know what pass he's going to give them. Like Zach, perfect pass up to the net, and that is a step behind from McIver. Ball hit out of bounds. UBC come back, 6-10.
Just a thing area there, he went up a little bit over anxious. He kept his fist close, and maybe with a little bit of a wrist snap, that ball was in for Hill.
There it is, Neil. Another good pass. So Jesse Vey, he is not getting it over, so that's 4 touches. That timeout has worked so far because now we're at 7. So Jesse Vey, maybe a little confidence factor there.
Yeah, and just a little bit late getting to the ball. The set was a little bit inside. He didn't make the necessary adjustment.
There it is, and Kevin Lee will feel a lot better. I was mentioning earlier about these people using their fists. Is that also because some of the referees are calling kind of tips a little tighter these days?
Well, sometimes on quick tips, but I think it's just a way to get to the ball to the floor quickly on a tight set.
He is calling the blocker on a carry ball.
And I don't think Uvic's going to like that call. A little bit surprised, but that's one of the things, be able to adjust. A lot of those sort of ball handling calls are judgment calls from the official.
And Kevin Lee comes up and just gets a piece of it.
You know, Victoria, they've changed their focus a little bit. The first game, almost all the sets, they were high outside. You saw McIver hitting a lot of balls. He had 6 kills in the first game. In this game, Lee, that's his 2nd kill out of the middle.
There it is. Ball's into the middle, and ball is recovered. And Mackay going out to the outside to the man who kills everything, Mike Neal from Courtney, BC.
You know, that's it's a real luxury. You've got somebody who's getting kills. He's got a kill here outside from the left side, the power side, call it, and he's been in the middle before. He gets kills out of the right side.
So if we had everybody hitting the ball as hard and as effective as Mike Neal, UBC would be well ahead. But right now, they're trailing 8-10. This is game number 2, 3 out of 5. Rukenor Thunderball 10. And Jamie Setter didn't get a chance to hit very up. And net ball, we got a net violation. Jesse V, a little tip shot.
Yeah, nice to see from a young player that he's mixing up the shots, and that's one of the things to be an effective attacker. You want to have the ability to hit the ball hard, but you also want an ability to change speeds up, catch the blockers off guard.
Here we go, and it's right in the middle, and Jesse V almost recovering, high to the outside. Armstrong takes a half-speed ball, dug up easily by Nedved. And this time, now the interesting thing about that, it wasn't as high a ball. They went with a little lower ball. That might have thrown off.
Yeah, we'll see on the replay here if this ball's just a little bit inside. You know, and one of the things here, on that tightest set, both blockers are going to be able to be set up.
Mackay going to, and that ball is touched deep. So Mike DL getting a phaser touched.
One of the things you see with the relaxation on the rules, one of the things is some players are reaching a lot for balls that are maybe out because they're becoming more used to playing balls overhead.
Good observation.
So he may have thought there was a touch on the play, but I think that ball went over top of the block.
8-11. Chris McIver makes a perfect pass. That ball is in. Neil Armstrong with an opening. That's what you call the classic hold the middle blocker.
That's right. If you look here, Mike Zach jumps, the middle blocker jumps, leaving it one-on-one outside. A good attacker from power is going to be able to put that ball away. And that's why you need to mix up between running some quick attack and some balls to the other positions, especially outside to either sideline.
Neil Armstrong, deep. Jamie Mackay, back set. And we got it. Mike Zach and Chris McIver in there. Mike Zach and Mike DL are buddies. They've both played together.
I think maybe, and that doesn't hurt. If you've seen a player a lot play in practice, the other thing is Mike DL had so many kills for UBC that I think the blockers are cheating his way a little bit. So they may be giving up a little bit on some of the other hitters. Be interesting to see how UBC responds.
Unfortunately, there was a net violation in Uvic, so we ended up getting the side out. Now Liebauer goes to the outside. He goes with the low ball. I've got to make the observation, though, but he went that low ball. But UBC knew there was only one set.
That's right. As you can see, both blockers are already there. Jeremy Westering close. There's almost no court for him to hit at.
So wouldn't the setter be better on that occasion then to have gone a little higher?
Yeah, and some of it, you've got to make the decision when to go quicker. I'm sure the signal was for a quicker play. And so you've got to make a very quick decision if you're going to change that or not.
Well, they turned it around and went to the right side. You observed earlier that the right side seems to be quite effective. Mike Zach back on the serve, and he's going to get a free ball. So that ball is being passed up by Lauren Jakula, and that ball is hit out of bounds. Out of bounds. No touch. There are some people here thinking there might have been a touch.
Definitely the ball was out of bounds. I'm not sure if they were looking for a touch off the block.
So the referee now looking for his yellow card.
We're in middle camp waiting here, a yellow card from the official.
So Lawrence is now
not sure who they gave that to.
Lawrence Jakula. Lawrence is Mr. Fire, so I can see why he'd get fired up. You get him into a game, and he is maximum enthusiasm, including having a discussion about what the referee might have missed or not missed.
Good to see Victoria here. They responded right away with side out. They went to, one of their hottest hitters, Mike Zach, in the back row, and a real nice kill. That put so much pressure on the blockers. Let's see what Jamie McKay here is discussing things with Jeremy Westering. There was a signal.
So that signal, the
one
finger down?
Often, most teams, it's a 51. Let's see if they bring Jeremy right inside here.
Well, they brought him inside, and as they brought him inside, he did hold the block.
Definitely. That's a real nice play. Of course, you still have to hit the ball in the court. Graham just hit the ball out of bounds here, but they held both blockers on that side, so it was one-on-one. You see the amount of drift. That was a back row spiker. He was up 3 meters.
Right now, it's 13-9 with that ace serve, and we've got a timeout right now. So UBC, what is Dale Holman going to say to his team?
Well, you see Victoria, they're looking pretty happy here because I think they're getting quite a few points out of not doing very much. What I mean by that is they're serving the ball hard and in the court, but that's causing all sorts of problems for UBC's serve receive.
And at every level, we talk about the importance of the serve. It's the importance, but is that importance, does it change in any way?
In a lot of ways, I don't think so. It becomes probably, the ace error ratio you mentioned earlier. Once had a coach tell me that Canada didn't miss enough serves.
Well, that might have been me.
I think he was an international coach for Cuba. What he really meant was you should be serving harder all the time, to try and put the team trouble. If you look internationally, especially men's volleyball, the side-out ratio is very high. And one of the things here that UBC would have to be concerned about is the side-out ratio isn't high enough. What I mean by that is they're not able to, off of the serve, side out at about a 65 or 70%. There's one reason for that I can see, and that is their serve receive. They're not getting enough balls to the setter.
And you could also say then as well, though, the University of Victoria must be serving pretty tough.
They're
too.
serving tough. They got some good spike service there. We managed to totally jinx him.
Well,
He's missed a few serves.
He has missed those serves, and actually he has missed those serves when Dale has called the timeout.
If you're absolutely right. Both times this game, missed serves have come right after a timeout.
9-13.
This is an important time in the match, I think, Vic. I think UBC has to be able to come back here and put some pressure on Victoria.
Chris Campbell went in. He's up there for that jump serve, and Doug Reimer, I've got to indicate that he maybe didn't go all out at that.
No, it looked like he was trying to take something off, and sometimes if he wasn't sure how hard he was going to hit it, that can cause the mistake.
That ball is passed perfectly, and right in the middle, Ambrose is there, but so is Kevin Lee for the University of Victoria. University of Victoria now up 14-9.
Look on this block. It was Kevin Lee, but it was also he got a lot of help from Jesse Vade, who came into his hitter, so he had 4 blocks.
That ball is high to the outside. Number 1, Nevitt and Jesse Vade. This is going to be a free ball to UBC. Jamie Mackay showing that he might have set it, might have hit it. He goes to the outside. The ball is blocked. 15-9. University of Victoria wins game number 2. They go up 2-0. But remember, this is a 3 out of 5. How about that?
Started with a good dig in the back row. Jesse Vade kept the ball in the play. They just had a free ball off the top of the net that picked 1 blocker out of the play, so they were able to get 2 on the outside blocker. And probably one of the big things there was a breakdown in the coverage, the block coverage. You know, that ball wasn't coming so fast that they couldn't save that. But again, you know, a lot of this is rhythm. When 1 or 2 things happened there off of service receive, they were able to take advantage of it, add some blocking.
And the University of Victoria leads 2-0 at this Rook Thunderball 10, and we'll be right back after this.
Local broadcast and sponsorship of the Thunderball 10 Intercollegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament is made possible through funding provided by Rook Canada Limited, where sport is an art.
Game number 3 at the University of British Columbia War Memorial Gymnasium. We're at Rukenor Thunderball 10. You're now looking at Neil Armstrong. The 2 teams are in blue, just a little darker blue for University of Victoria, a lighter blue for UBC. UBC on the right-hand side of the screen, and UBC getting that ball back.
Mike Dial with another kill. You see him with Graham there. You gotta like that start for UBC because they got a good solid pass and a great kill. They have to maintain that consistently.
Sean Nevitt, and that's one of the better hits for Mike Zach. Mike has been scoring, but that was authority.
You know, a lot of the balls that are hit out of the middle don't have to be hit really hard, but you need some balls hit hard just to keep the defense honest.
Mike Zach deep, and he's not happy. Do a little resetting of the signals. We've got a change for UBC.
We've got a major change there. The setter, Jamie Mackay, has been replaced by Jeff Fallows, so Dale Lohman looking to shake things up a little bit.
So I'm going to give you a chance to give us the statistics so far from these games. We know right now that University of Victoria is ahead 2-0. They won the first one 15-11, and they won the second one 15-9. So
we take a look at the new setter there. Well, Mike Dial, not surprisingly, led UBC. He had 5 kills in that second game alone. He also had 5 digs and two blocks.
There it is. McIver puts it down and out to the outside. Mike Dial over to Mike Zach. Mike Zach takes it out the outside. Chris McIver recovered by Armstrong. That ball is almost mishandled, and Fellows takes it out, puts it out to the outside. It is low to the outside. Mike Dial, he puts it into the net.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment problem. We got Jeff Fallows here. You see the ball going outside. But, you know, a ball that he could have swung on just a little bit off balance, didn't hit it at the height of his jump.
Scott Liebar with that jump float right into the middle. Fellows changing up the rhythm a little bit. Jesse Vay, a high ball to the outside. Jesse Vay, being a right side player, is also a pretty fair setter.
Yeah, he did a nice job there. Perfect set outside. He got the one-on-one block here, if you notice, because we had Graham Middlecamp a little bit late coming outside. One-on-one, kill cross court.
High, deep ball. This ball is going to be just put over by Ambrose. Zach takes it, into the middle. Jesse Vey, he puts it down. Do you have the statistics there, or are you able to figure out what's happened so far?
For Uvic, in that second game, Mike Zach with 5 kills. Chris McIver had 10 kills, or sorry, he had 9 kills. So that their offense revolved totally around those 2 guys.
And we had a center line violation on University of Victoria going across that line called by the umpire. Red rule, national referee on the stand. And you can see them coming down there. Well, we got it called. We couldn't quite see it.
Right. I think if we'd let that replay run, it could have been as they were trying to get back up. Your foot is allowed to touch the line. Your foot is not allowed to go completely over the line, and your hands aren't allowed to touch the line at all.
Well, there was a fight at the net. Fellows was there. Now, let's see. Oh, it's just going to be half speed. Half speeds are not going to work. There's another half speed. The ball's up. Let's see what Lee Bauer does this time. He goes to Jesse Vey, recovered by Mike Zach. And that ball's going to be hit hard by Armstrong. And out to the outside, Jesse Vey down one more time. This guy's getting better game by game.
He is. He's getting a lot of confidence. If you compare this ball, how he hit this, how hard he hit this compared to the first swing of the match, no comparison at all. And it was a great rally.
The only thing
some great coverage on both sides of the net.
Unbelievable. The only thing I might say to Jesse is watch how you're landing, Jesse. You might want to land on both feet, because he's getting so high. If he lands a little too much on that one leg, what happens, Doug?
Well, I mean, you get a lot of overuse injuries and some tendonitis, and it's a good point. You know, and it's almost a sign here's somebody that hasn't played as much volleyball as some of these other players and not quite as smooth.
There's a deep recovery. Watch it out to the outside. That's Armstrong. And recovered. Armstrong finding an opening right now. The University of Victoria leading 2-0, and right at this point they're leading 3-1 in the Rukenor Thunderball X. So Kevin's going back there, but he is missing a few more serves than I think you'd like.
Oh, I think so. Especially if you look, Victoria has a fair bit of momentum right now. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and if they just give up the ball here, they're giving UBC a chance to get back in the match.
Well, I think what you had was a back row player going up to block, but it's hard to say whether he was blocking or falling down and digging. And Armstrong going deep, and that ball's recovered. That ball is thrown by the setter. McIver takes it. And Scott Liebauer, he puts a shoot set out to Armstrong into the back row to Mike DL. Mike DL takes it, puts it deep.
Deep cross court.
How many kills did you say Mike DL had in the?
Mike DL had 5 kills in the second game alone, and I think this is his second kill of game 3, so he's starting to rack them up.
So he puts it, and we've got a carried ball called on the setter.
You know, here's a serve that was served cross court from the left-hand side of the court, and it put him in some trouble. Paul Smith's got to be feeling pretty good about his team's play, but you know, it's only 2 out of the 3 games, so he doesn't want to see them let up and give up easy points.
Well, Jesse Vey was in there, and we got too many touches. So Jesse Vey was in, and that time UBC was up with the stuff block.
Sean Nevitt with a stuff block. You know, that's been important because right side attack has helped both teams, so if they can start blocking that.
Westering crossover. McIver comes in to take it. McIver makes a good play. Zach gets it through.
You know, as you're mentioning earlier, he hasn't hit a lot of balls hard, but he still has a lot of kills. And, you know, sometimes out of the middle, just able to push it off the block, and you can put some pressure on the defense.
Jesse Vey with that float serve, but that's passed well. Fellows is in, and the man of the hour, Mike DL.
Boy, he's
quiet, happy, unassuming guy.
But he hits really hard. I'm not sure Victoria thinks he's quiet, happy, and unassuming. I think you're talking off the court, aren't you?
Off the court. This man is such a quiet giant, A+ student, and he's in engineering.
Yeah, he's actually an outstanding student, recipient of a major academic scholarship. New setter there, and he's still, looks like Jeff's still trying to get himself warm and into the match here, and it's going to be important that he does this early on.
Well, right now he's got them ahead, but that overpass is down. Mike Zach making absolutely sure of that.
You know, again, that ball just barely cleared the net on the serve, and it barely cleared the net on the overpass.
Neil Armstrong hitting it hard, out of bounds. 4-4 in game number 3. University of Victoria had 2-0. This is Rukenor Thunderball 10. Big international volleyball tournament. Some of the best teams in North America. We're playing for 5th and 6th. So this is great volleyball, playing for 5th and 6th. What about some of those other teams that were in this tournament?
Boy, we've got, it's just as we see him just hit that ball out of bounds. It was a good swing back across his body. I mean, you got UCLA, who have won incredible number of NCAA championships, and they battle hard against Manitoba, who have another, you know, probably the strongest team over the last 15 years in Canadian volleyball. And both Saskatchewan is also a competitive team. And then you throw into that whole mix, you got the top pro team from Russia, you know, with just so it, you know, real variety of styles, real variety, and boy, the tournament all-star team here is going to have some pretty darn good players on it.
Oh, and UBC having an opportunity to stretch this lead because they're ahead 5-4, but now University of Victoria trailing 4-5. Scott Liebauer goes with a kind of a, I don't know, it's supposed to be a little, looks like it's a float, but it seems to have a little spin on it. Mike Zach going to take it up. Jesse Vay's going to half-speed it. Westering takes it. Fellows puts it to the outside. Mike DL gets blocked by Kevin Lee.
I'm impressed with Kevin Lee's blocking. He's done a real good job. Here you see he closes, takes the court away, and you know, the movement along the net for the middle blockers, they have to work really hard.
So Scott Liebauer, a little upset with himself, but he's smiling, getting ready. Let's see if he's going to get some signals here. When he's looking over, I guess he's going to go with whatever he ran last time. Net violation, Mike DL. 5-5. Chance to break this game open now. Do you ever get those deadlocks?
Well, I think you'll see that a lot, and this is a key time probably in the match, especially for UBC. They've got to get some momentum here.
Mike DL deep. Mike Zach was up there with one hand, but it missed him, and the ball just flew out of bounds. 6-5, University of Victoria. Chris McIver. Deep. And that ball was up and blocked by Armstrong. 3 people on that block. Good recovery. The ball is in trouble. Free ball back here now. And Westering comes into the middle, but middle cap is up, and Jesse Vay is up with him. And believe it or not, the ball was blocked.
Let's see, we have a good look at it here on the replay. Oh, this is the play. He just about took Scott Liebauer's head off on that spike.
But the rest of it here, because it was a long rally, because what'll happen here is that it's going to go over, and we've got it blocked, comes back and hits on the head, and it's an indication that the ball was in. We had some people disagreeing. The referee is indicating to Neil Armstrong that he's going to get a yellow card.
Just for the viewers at home, you're allowed a yellow card, and that's just like your warning or your caution. A red card would mean a serve point or a serve receive side out. So in other words, it would be a loss of a point in the team. So that person has to be careful now not to get too upset.
Neil Armstrong getting a deep cross court.
Good attempt by Graham Middlecamp there in the dig, slid a long way, but just wasn't able to control the ball.
Now, let's see what Kevin Lee is going to do. He's deep in the court. He's their one
float server.
Well, he floated it, and I think UBC helped him out on that. Jesse Vay was up in the block, and Nevitt hitting it out of bounds. Nevitt from Red Deer, Alberta.
You know, they've had a little trouble getting a lot of kills inside from the power position. That's why passing is so important, so they have a chance to run in the middle.
High, outside. Nevitt takes it, and he hits it with topspin. Well, UBC had Mike Kurtz earlier in the year, and he was going to be one of their top gunners.
Definitely. You know, UBC, to be fair to them, they've had a lot of injury problems, especially early in the season. Mike Kurtz, I think a 6'9" power hitter with a lot of power, and, you know, they really miss him. He could be out for the balance of the season, so it could be important for the rest of the UBC players to sort of assert themselves.
Scott Liebauer and Mike Zach seem to be connecting fairly well. And take a look at this
Great pass. They like what you mentioned earlier, that 31 position, away from the setter a little bit, but still a quick attack.
And that time, UBC getting it up. Jesse Vay is going to go with a half speed. Dug up by Mike DL and over the net. And down is Mike Zach. I think UBC may have thought that Mike was over before the attack was complete.
That's really close here, and that's one that happens really quickly. We got the benefit of the replay here, and in some ways I think he was over, but you know, more and more they're going to give the blockers a little bit of leeway there if they think that ball's coming over the net.
Right, and I guess the question, because I was listening to some referees yesterday, I was listening to Harold Teachcraft. He said, when is it an attack? And it's when the other team is making an attempt to put it over. So the referee has to make that decision. Was that an attempt to put it over?
I don't think so,
No.
but if that ball is going to still be coming over, right, and you don't think the setter's going to get it, then I think you have to allow the blockers to go up and be aggressive.
I like that. Neil Armstrong, deep, and he just misses the line. Right now, the University of Victoria leading 8-5, so.
You know, I really sense there's an opportunity here for UBC if they can raise their level of play a little bit, play a little more consistently, do less errors, to get back in this match.
Mike Zach putting it through, net violation by Mike DL. So Mike Zach coming around to that right side with what Bill Neville, I said, used to call a red slide.
Yeah, like, if you notice, Mike Zach hit most of his balls out of the middle, but in that time out of serve receive, they just left him back set. I don't know if they were looking, trying to get a match up the particular blocker.
Out to the outside, Chris McIver high off the bonk, and Nevitt gets it. Fellows is going to go out to the outside. Middle camp, almost getting it through. Lee Bauer up, McIver gets it, good recovery. Fellows just hustling after that ball. Going to be a fight at the net. Middle camp into the net. That may be the break that Uvic needs to pull ahead 9-5.
And they see here, I think maybe great hustle from Jeff Fells, but just wasn't quite able to control it. Graham Middlecamp going hard for the ball, crashing into Dale Ambrose, forcing Dale Oman to take his timeout. See him talking with Mike DL there. I think, you know, if you've looked at the offense here for UBC, it's revolved around a lot around Mike DL, and they're using him increasingly from the back row as well, because he's one of the few players right now that's had the power to put the ball away first time for UBC, and that's where they really miss, you know, probably somebody like a Mike Kurtz in their lineup.
He's also going to have a little discussion with Ambrose. It would appear that the UBC team, and again, maybe the passing isn't there, but maybe aren't getting as much out of the middle as they'd like.
Right, and I really would say that the problem is more with the serve receive, or the passing off of the serve. The spike serve here, a lot of the balls, even some of the better ones, have been passed really high and off the net, which makes the timing a little bit tougher for them to run the middle attack. And, you know, even that one skill, I think, has affected sort of their confidence in most other aspects of their play, you know, and has carried over. They haven't been able to overcome that in terms of other things, let's say on block coverage, on blocking itself, you know, because they're ending up giving up a lot of free balls, which means that Victoria is being able to run a confident offense back of them, and they're hitting against a one-man block a lot.
Well, we've had a timeout, and after timeouts up to this point, Uvic has often come back and missed it. Let's see what Mike Zach does. He's going to go with that high toss, and he gets that ball in. Fellows is up there. Good ball to the outside, and that ball is blocked out of bounds.
You know, the other factor we should probably mention here is the change in setters, and Jeffrey Fowles, maybe he isn't quite as confident setting the middle attackers.
Oh, right now, Ambrose on the line. UBC picking up a point.
Again, we see the same kind of play here, just a little over bump, and did he go over or not, and did they have a chance to play at the point we were mentioning earlier?
High, deep ball, out of bounds. Chris McIver hitting it deep. The linesman indicated that he saw a touch.
Well, if it was a touch, it wasn't a very big touch, because the ball didn't deflect at all. And, you know, as a coach or the player, when you're struggling to get back into the match, that's one of the plays just off by an inch or two. If that ball didn't touch, they would be serving it 9-7, 7-9.
There's the float serve, just follows there. Jesse Fay is up. Would you say this man's got a bit of a future in the game?
I would say that his position in the right side is exactly where he should be. Just let's see how far over his hands go. And if you want to try and hit that ball in the court, where exactly are you going to hit that?
And there's the combination, running the X. Mike DL coming around.
Sorry to interrupt, but Jesse Vade, he moved in and helped there. You see him, he's pretty pretty happy. He's pretty pumped out there because he's just got 2 blocks in a row. He jumped in, joined in the help. And again, you know, UBC tried to run something a little different, not just put the ball high outside against Jesse Vade. He still was effective. So they may have to just run away from him completely.
Well, yeah, particularly if they don't want to build his confidence too much.
I know, he's enjoying life a lot, and pretty happy here. Keep in mind here all the time, this match still isn't over. UBC definitely has to do something to counteract both the blocking and the serving from Victoria.
Jesse Vade is listed at 6'4". Played some volleyball at Langara, but he had a lot of volleyball with Sharon Erickson on the White Rock team.
You can see just a good athlete, and he's obviously, when you see a player being able to read that play, that crossing pattern that they brought him around, and he'd come join the block even though it wasn't his hitter, that's a very good sign because it shows that he's got a good awareness on the court of where they're setting. So I think here you might see UBC run either straight middle or a back set to Mike DL.
So we're all set here, and guess what?
There's
we have a timeout and a serve out of bounds. Dale tends to call that timeout when the setter, Scott Liebauer, goes back there. Scott's had a lot of experience.
I bet he wished he had more than 2 timeouts, so that's one of the best plays they've had so far.
And there it is, high to the outside. Jesse Vade's going with a tip shot, and we had a center line violation.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm not sure Victoria's clear on this, but he was definitely under the net with his feet. You can see there he's way under.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a point. 7-11. Mike DL. Tough spike serve, but not tough if it's going to go into the net.
You know, at this point in the match, pressure's on UBC here. They have to serve tough and not miss. They've got to.
That's a tough assignment. Follows out to the middle camp, going there, net violation. It's either Jesse Vade or Kevin Lee. Jesse Vade said it wasn't me. Kevin Lee's just shaking his head.
Yeah, so I think it was Kevin Lee, the way he walked away from that ball. Body language suggests that he was indeed off the net. I think the referee here is, he's had enough of Victoria complaining on most calls. And in fact, some of these have been pretty clear, and they're still getting upset. So this one may be going more towards the Victoria bench.
Well, if nothing else, they can't complain because this is a Victoria referee. And it's a Victoria umpire.
Aware of that, so...
so you can't say it's biased.
No. So much for the old home court advantage.
There it is, the back row. McIver takes it, and that ball is just in.
Something else like can't be too happy if you're sitting on the UBC bench because the linesman fooled him there. He made it look like he was about to call out. We're going to get a real good look at it here. Very close and tough to say.
And Kevin Lee.
No, I think Victoria's got to be a little careful here. They're making quite a few unforced errors. And right now they're still playing with enough confidence, enough ability. But a substitute coming into the game, back row specialist that we've seen before for UBC, Chris Campbell.
And Chris Campbell went up in this position in game number 1, I think it was, and served very, very well. Let's see what yes, good hard cross-court serve. Scott Liebauer and Jesse Vade follows Nevid. And McIver just getting one hand on it. Jesse Vade going deep back into the backcourt. Middle camp, and just I think Mike DL taking a little off it. Armstrong definitely taking something off it. Follows up to the outside to Nevid, and it's out of bounds. Long rally, and UBC is indicating they thought that Uvic was on the net.
A little bit of frustration maybe on both sides here. Great dig in the backcourt. Unbelievable dig. You saw in that replay there, he came all the way across. Touch off of the block. Mike DL from the back row, and another great dig.
7-11. Jeff follows the server right now, and he is now, they're getting, see the Uvic team lined up there in the dark blue. And Armstrong just punching it over. Mike DL going to make a set well off the net. it looks like UBC's pulling the sets off the net a little bit more.
I think so, you know, and maybe that responded a little bit, changed the timing somewhat, forced the block to skin up. And, you know, that play, hitting the ball off the block, I think that's what Sean Nevitt's got to do a lot more. He's got to just try and challenge that block a little bit and get his kills from that position.
And cross court to Campbell, number 13, Chris Campbell from Fredericton, New Brunswick. And you'll see him here.
Neil Armstrong with a great kill cross court. I mean, Victoria, they've had several players sort of step it up and attack aggressively.
Right now, Uvic is back on the serving line, and they're leading 11-8. That ball is set awfully close. McIver's in there and almost recovers it. I think we're getting just kind of a lull in play here.
Yeah, you know, definitely on UBC's side, I'm sure Dale Oman would prefer to see better control on some of those those easy passes. They were very fortunate there. Got a substitution coming into the game.
Christopher Torr. Let's see what he does. He's going to serve from the middle of the court. He's concentrating. He's going with a spike serve. The ball is up, beauty, and we're getting McIver called on a carried tip.
Call the ball handling call there. We haven't seen a lot of those there, and then we got a release. Good call in some ways because the ball started in one direction, pulled it the other way. I'm sure UBC thinks it's a good call.
Yes, 9-11. Mike Zach is through, and he cuts it back deep into zone 5.
You know, Mike Zach's been very effective when he's come, what we'd say, involved some movement. So he moved to his right, to his left, excuse me, and hit it back towards his right. He had the defense moving in the other direction because he has hit a lot of balls to the other side of the court.
Mike Zach took a little bit off his serve, follows, goes into the middle, and the ball is not there. Now, that could be the breaking point because Uvic has been at 11 points for a long time.
Yeah, just miscommunication again. The setter-hitter relationship, especially on quicker stuff, with the new setter in the game.
And Mike Zach has put them in trouble a little bit, and that ball is just going deep, and UBC gets it. Middlecamp takes it, and he goes down the line, just out of bounds.
I think Graham Middlecamp is looking for a touch off the digger, and I think that's exactly what happened.
So we've got another yellow card, but take a look. He's going down the line.
Here, and if the camera can get there quick enough, I think that hit it. Didn't quite see it on the camera there, but I think that just touched off Jesse Vick, and only the linesman is going to be able to see that.
Oh, you think Jesse might have touched it, actually?
The digger touched it.
And Mike Dial might get maybe a little bit tired. Right now, University of Victoria leading 14-9. This is game 3. They took the first 2.
Stuff block and match point.
15-11, 15-9. Mike Zach serves it, Middlecamp. He's going. This time he takes cross court off the block. McIver takes it off the block, out of bounds. That's the game. 15-9. The University of Victoria taking 5th place in this 5th-6 match at the Rukenor Thunderball 10.
You know, hats off to Victoria. They played with a lot of confidence. I mean, they did a lot of skills well. That was a great dig coming back into the court. Chris McIver attacking very aggressively, just going after it hard. And it's tough to defend that when you hit a ball hard off the blocker's hands. UBC nowhere close to getting that. So a good turnaround for Victoria, who lost to UBC earlier in the season.
So the University of Victoria wins 3-0 in this rivalry across the water. UBC and University of Victoria. We're going to be right back right after this. Local broadcast and sponsorship of the Thunderball 10 Intercollegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament is made possible through funding provided by Rukenor Canada Limited, where sport is an art. The University of Victoria takes it 3-0, 15-11, 15-9, and 15-9. Pretty decisive. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, similar pattern in each game. You know, poor service from UBC, following good serving from Victoria in terms of putting them in trouble, and Victoria just became more confident throughout the match.
What does that say for the rivalry in their Canada West matches coming up?
Well, I think earlier in the season they had a little tour and UBC defeated Victoria, so you know, they're still pretty even, and these things can change. As Mike DL mentioned, pretty tired from a long, grueling quarterfinal match with Saskatchewan, so another week could bring another result.
Great opportunity to get out and watch great volleyball at UBC. More Canada West matches coming up, so come on out and watch it live. This has been Vic Lindell with Doug Reimer at Rukenar Thunderball 10.